Scott Gross, place 3 candidate.
It's a real simple and fundamental issue, in my opinion. Whenever you have a concentration of power, things get kind of, well, take a look at our national politics right now. You saw what that's done to healthcare. Not that this is quite on the same level, but I look at it as simply a matter of checks and balances. The council does indeed appoint or confirm the members of the EIC, but this is taxpayer money. It's not paid by taxpayers, but it belongs to you. You're the people, you own this money. And we just feel, or I should say I feel, that it's wholly appropriate to have a second vetting of how that money is spent. And I think it's appropriate to have it vetted by elected officials, people who are accounted to the electorate.
Thank you very much. And Robert Keeble, place 3 candidate, please.
Thanks. Well, when Gene said that the EIC board is screened, I think he said a mouthful. It's screened all right. And they're pretty careful about who they allow to be on that board. And I don't mean that in a good sense. I talked with a gentleman in River Hill. He's a capable and honest businessman. And he was granted a 30-minute interview with the EIC board and to see if he might be a potential member of that board. And when he made clear to them that he wasn't going to be beholden to special interests, he never got a call back. That kind of thing really concerns me, and I spoke at one point with a state senator from the East Texas area who told me that they had the same problem in their area. He used to be mayor of Tyler, and they got their EIC money, their 4B sales tax money, in the hands of a capable and competent council, and they took their city's tax rate from 52 cents per $100 evaluation down to 20 cents. They did it by building better roads and better drainage and by paying down their debt. And I think that's a good plan for Kerrville. Kevin Eltife is the young man's name. He's volunteered to come and speak with our city council and talk about how they did the project there, and I think it's time to invite him.
Thank you, Mr. Keeble. Scott Gross has asked for a 1-minute rebuttal. You have 1 minute, sir.
Well, if there's one thing a city council member in Kerrville doesn't like to hear, it's the word Tyler. We've been Tyler to death. Tyler and Kerrville are not the same place in any way, shape, and or form. Tyler is a regional trade center. They have heavy manufacturing there, and the situation is not nearly, it's apples to oranges, maybe apples to walnuts. It's that far apart. Our city attorney tells us that they have used some of that 4B money in ways that perhaps are not, a conservative attorney wouldn't advise you to use. So Tyler's a nice place, I'm sure, but it's not Kerrville, and it's not going to be.
All right, Robert Keeble has asked for a 1-minute rebuttal. You have 1 minute, sir.
I think it's imperative that we begin looking at some success stories from other places. We can no longer afford to be provincial here in Kerrville. Mr. Gross's thought, in my opinion, on this matter is very provincial, and we need to start looking at some places like Tyler, some places like New Braunfels, some places who have had success in areas, and start thinking outside the box a little bit. And I think this would be a very good place to start. I think I agree with the mayor that we could start looking at KPUB for taking over our, or at least consider KPUB for taking over our water and wastewater administration. I think the KPUB board is excellent, and I think Mayor Bach made a very good point when he said that we should begin considering that. If that move would help our local taxpayers, I would be for it because it would improve efficiency, and I think that's a good thing for Kerrville.
All right, thank you very much. I think we had another question over here earlier. Yes, over here.
Bill Morgan. Having served on the Comprehensive Plan Update Committee, I'd like to advise Mr. Stafford to get the latest one rather than the 2002. We spent a year on it, and it has many revisions. And then coming back to the former Texas Rangers, my wife and I spent 3 years working diligently with that, and they never had a business plan. I understand they wanted money, but the council would have been remiss to let them have it without a business plan, and they never presented a business plan. So in defense of the council, I just wanted to put that in.
All right, sir, thank you very much. Do we have any other questions? We have one here at the front, Ryan, and we have one over here from this young lady.
Well, I really have a two-part question.
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, I would like to know if any of those running for council for the first time have ever attended a budget workshop, which is open to the public. And secondly, if they have reviewed the budgets, as I understand the budget in looking at it in council, much of the budget goes to salaries for the personnel that provide the services in our city. And there's really not, that I can see, that much discretionary spending available to the city. So if they are wanting to cut taxes, would they do that by reducing services and cutting personnel?
Thank you very much. We're going to start with Place 3 candidate Robert Keeble.
Thanks, Carolyn. Yeah, I have attended the winter retreat workshop where we did discuss the budget. And your point is, of course, taken very seriously, because this is a rather important issue. Most of you probably know that 60% of the Kerrville budget goes to our payroll. And the fact is, I think our fire, police, and EMS services do a very good job. I'm very proud of them, and I know many of them personally, and I feel that we have many hard workers, and that Chief Ojeda and Chief Young do a very fine job. I'm concerned about our staff. I think there are areas of city staff where we can be much more efficient. And I think if we have a council who's concerned about having smaller rather than bigger government, I believe that council can work with City Manager Parton in ways that can make our staff much more efficient than it currently is. We have 6 members of our staff on our financial end right now, and I'm not sure that that's warranted. I said at the CT Forum, and I'll say it again, we have a city attorney who makes over $100,000 a year. We have a assistant city attorney who's full-time, and that concerns me. I think we need to look hard at that. I talked with a couple from the Bloomington, Indiana area, and they were from a town that's near the size of Kerrville, and they have 1 part-time city attorney. And I think it's time that we looked hard at that issue, among others, with our city staff.
Thank you very much. Sky Groves, Place 3 candidate, please.
When we run for city government, for city office, we're all reformers. We're all going to get in there and jerk a knot in the tail of things and make big changes. And we get inside, we find out, gee, they're pretty smart folks. And we find out, yeah, there's some things some efficiencies we could probably wring out of the system, but you find that you had 5 council members who weren't exactly stupid the time before and the time before that. So when it comes down to getting efficiencies out of the government, there's not a lot left to wring. I will say that our city staff has been asked to give a 10% budget cut, and there have been no raises. And it was our city manager was due for a salary review last week or week before last. He very graciously showed incredible leadership and said, with the budget like it is, I don't even want to have it considered. I thought that was leadership par excellence. When we voted on last year's budget, or on this year's budget, before we voted, I asked each and every member of the council, do you see anything in this budget that is wasteful, unnecessary, or frivolous? And each and every one of those council members said, no, they did not. So you've had 5 smart people, or at least 4, taking a look at the budget and saying, I can't find anything. So I'd like to wring some more efficiencies out, but unfortunately, there isn't a lot left to wring.